Hey everybody, welcome to Rise City Church. It's great to have you. My name's Pete, I'm one of the pastors here, and I am outside on our parking lot where we are distributing over 400 bags of food to our local community. Last week, Convoy of Hope brought a whole semi full of food. We had a team of volunteers last Saturday pack it up and put it in bags and get it all ready, and today we sent out invitations to all around the community and invited people to come and pick whatever they needed up. And so today it's happening. Check it out. Well, what else can we say but thank you to everyone who has volunteered and given to make this day happen. We also want to offer a special thank you to Convoy of Hope for such an amazing donation. They are a tremendous organization doing some incredible things around the world. And how cool is this? In just a few minutes, you're actually going to get to hear a special one-on-one interview between Pastor Brandon and the president and CEO of Convoy of Hope, Hal Donaldson. It's going to be a powerful discussion, and I'm so glad you're here to see it. And should you happen to be checking out Rise for the first time today, thanks for being here. We'd love the opportunity to connect with you personally and offer you more information about getting connected at Rise City. So to do that, just text the word Rise City, one word, to 484848. Again, that's the word Rise City, one word, 484848. And just for taking the time to say hello, if you live in the San Diego area, we'll send you a gift card for a free Chick-fil-A. Just say thanks for being here. But before we jump into our service, we want to take one moment on behalf of myself and the entire Rise City staff to say Happy Father's Day to all the amazing dads out there. We hope it's a special day that you get to enjoy with your families. We love you, dads, and just want to honor you this morning.
Life is always fair. I really enjoy repeating myself over and over again. I just love when the kids talk back to me. I don't care if you get a job this summer. I don't care if you get detention. I can't open this jar. See if Mom can open it. Just take your time in there, okay? No means maybe. Hey, why don't you bring that ball inside and play with it? Hey, don't put that back where you found it. Just leave it on the floor. Ew, bacon. If you put a dent in the car, it's really no big deal. It's 10 a.m. Go back to bed. Look, whatever your friends are doing, just do the exact same thing. I got more than enough sleep last night. If your friends are okay with it, then I'm okay with it. Stop signs are just a suggestion. You don't need a chaperone. You don't need a seatbelt. You don't need a savings account. You should buy the jeans with the holes in them. Hey, we're all gonna go to church, but you can just sleep in, okay? Can we please just hang out in here for another 10 minutes? Hey, can we get some more bickering back there? All right, bills. Yay, traffic. Woohoo, taxes. Yes. Laundry. Hey, can you kids come in here and jump on my bed? Quick, go tell Mom what happened right away. You don't need to finish your dinner. Hey, look at your phone when I'm talking to you. I wish I had a smaller TV. We got you that phone for a reason. Texting boys. All right, everyone, listen up. Mom and I are going out of town this weekend, so please, mess up the whole house while we're gone. Please throw a few parties while we're gone. Please forget about the dog entirely while we're gone. Hey, when you're finished pouring that, can you just leave it out on the counter all day? Thanks. What are you doing?
I'm gonna bungee jump out of this tree.
That's a really good idea.
But he brought me, his love for me. Yes, his love for who the sun sets free. Oh, it's free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I Jesus died for me. Yes, he died for me. Who the sun sets free, oh, it's free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place am chosen, not forsaken. Yes, I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. Yes, I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. Yes, I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. Yes, I am who you say I am. Sing it out. I am chosen, not forsaken. Yes, I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. Yes, I am who you say I am. I'm chosen. I am chosen, not forsaken. Yes, I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. Yes, I am who you say I am. Yes, I am who you say I am. Yes, I am who you say I am. Who the Son sets free, always free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I
Okay, so despite all this activity and everything going on around here on this Father's Day weekend, there is still even bigger news. Drum roll, please. That's right, we are starting back up live services here on campus. That's right, after 37 years, or 3 months, I've lost track of time, we are coming back starting on Sunday, July 12th for our normal 9 and 11 a.m. services. Now, I suppose I should probably be careful using the word normal because as we all know, nothing about any of this is normal, and we're still living under social distancing restrictions. But the question is, what will it look like when we come back? Will we be wearing masks and sitting 6 feet apart? Will we have a professional SWAT team on site to take down anyone who sneezes or gives a high five? There are a lot of questions and details that, to be completely honest, we're still kind of in the process of working out. Things change almost daily with all this, and we're still a full 3 weeks away. So some details are still being ironed out. That being said, we can say there will be some level of social distancing, probably based upon how many people can be in the building at a certain time. There will be probably some spaces that have to wear masks, adjustments to kids ministry. We want you to know that we're gonna have all those details available to you prior to that Sunday to help you make a decision about returning. And please know that should you and your family feel, once you have those details, that coming back to a physical service isn't the right move for you just yet, we will continue to offer an online service option every week, just as we've been doing these past few months. We want you to make the decision you and your family are most comfortable with and not feel any pressure one way or the other. Our team will strive to ensure you get the same quality experience, whether here on campus or watching online at home. And part of that quality online experience involves our worship team recording and editing music for you to enjoy digitally. So, as we get set to officially reopen Sunday services next month, we decided to start by hosting a live on-campus worship experience this weekend that will be filmed and used for future online services. And we want to invite you to come and join with us. So this Saturday night, June 27th, we'll be hosting 2 identical 45-minute worship events at either 5:30 and 7. You can pick the one that best fits your schedule. Okay, so that's the good news. Now let's talk about how COVID ruins all our fun again. Because of current California restrictions and due to it being a live recording event, there will not be any childcare. And we're asking that only children kindergarten and up attend with you. What's more, we have to limit the total number of people in the room, hence the need for 2 services. And so we're asking you to sign up and reserve your spot before attending. You can find the form to RSVP in your e-news, on the Rise City app, or on the Facebook page. But hurry, because space is limited, and once full, we'll not be able to accept any more attenders. And look, we know it's not the most ideal situation, but this is a difficult season, and we're all managing through it as best we can. So as I mentioned earlier, we just want to say thank you again for joining with us in helping others manage it, not just making it all about ourselves, but offering hope and healing to a world that really needs it right now. Those of you who have been so faithful to donate food, supplies, your time, who have come and served at events like this, the food distribution, as well as all of you who continue to support this ministry financially, whether online, through our app or website, sending in physical donations, it is all so deeply appreciated. We're gonna get through this together, and we have so much to be thankful for. So let's continue to worship our amazing God together.
Worthy of every song. Worthy of every song we could ever sing. Worthy of all the praise. Worthy of all the praise we could ever bring. Worthy of every breath. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. We live for you. Jesus the name. Jesus the name above every other name. Jesus the only one we could ever save. Worthy of every breath. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, we live for you. Holy and holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder. Show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. Worthy of every song we ever sing. Worthy of every song we could ever sing. Worthy of all the praise we could ever bring. Worthy of all the praise we could ever bring. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. We live for you. Jesus the name. Jesus the name above every other name. The only one who could ever say. Jesus the only one who could ever say. Worthy of every breath. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. We live for you. And holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder. Show me who you are and fill
Well, hey there, Rise City Church, and once again to all the dads out there, happy Father's Day. And in the message portion today in the service, I am so excited to be able to introduce you to someone who's become a great friend and mentor to me, Hal Donaldson, who is the founder and CEO of Convoy of Hope, which we've partnered with for the distribution of all the food items that we talked about earlier and you saw in the service. I first met Hal when I actually was invited to go on a trip with my wife, not having any clue that the trip was somehow connected to Convoy of Hope, and really had no interest whatsoever in being a part of any of the meetings that were going on the cruise ship. But I felt like, I probably should go to at least one of them. And the one that I went to was the first one, and Hal gave just the background of his life and how Convoy of Hope started. And then I ended up, along with Jamie, we went to every session after that because my heart just was beating outside of my chest. I was like, oh my goodness, like this man just captured my attention because of his compassion and his kindness and his integrity. And so it's been such an honor to get a chance to know him more, to know more about this organization, Convoy of Hope, which is now almost 26 years old. And recently just crossed over the 30 million meal mark of meals that are getting distributed across the United States to help families in need from the COVID-19 crisis. And so it's so exciting to be able to have Hal on the Zoom call. And like I said, I just really want a chance for you to get a chance to hear his heart as we're gonna have a conversation about his background, Convoy of Hope, and we're also gonna talk about just his experience as a father. He has 4 daughters, and so has a lot of wisdom to offer there. So join with me. I'm gonna jump online and we're gonna talk to Hal Donaldson. All right, well, I'm here with Hal Donaldson. Hal, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. It's so good to see you.
You too, Brandon. It's you're one of those friendships that I just so value, and I just wish we were together today rather than having to use Zoom.
I know. So you got some Zoom fatigue going on as well?
Boy, I do. I think I have done 50 to 100 in just the last 60 days. So quite a bit.
That's you win. That's far more than me, but I'm already tired. So, wow. Well, it's a very unique time that we find ourselves in, and not sure how long it continues to stretch forward. But you know, I was wanted the opportunity for the people at Rise City Church to get a chance to hear from you and the heartbeat that you have as being the kind of founder and CEO of Convoy of Hope, but also just as a follower of Jesus. And so I thought we'd start the conversation I remember the first time I ever met you, and it was because, you know, we were on this cruise and I got to hear you speak, and you shared a part of your life story that just captivated my heart. And so I didn't know if you'd be willing to start there and talk about, you know, there was a significant moment I know early in your life that was tragic, but that tragedy God has used in great ways, and maybe we can start the conversation there.
Well, I want to say thank you to Rise City Church, just to everyone. Thank you so much for your generosity, your kindness, and it's just really a joy for us to consider you one of our partners, and your people have just been so amazing. My story really goes back to a tragedy at the age of 12. My father was hit by a drunken driver. My mother was in the car. My father was killed instantly. My mother was seriously injured, and she would be disabled, unable to work. My family didn't have insurance. The man who hit them didn't have insurance, and so our family was forced to survive on welfare. And so throughout my teenage years, our cupboards were often empty, and there were times that we had holes in our shoes. And, you know, Brandon, I know what it's like to go into a supermarket with food stamps in my hand. So I understood the shame of poverty. But along with that, there was the power of kindness. So many people reached out to us and wrapped their arms around us, cared for us. I remember one story, a woman saw that I had holes in my shoes at church, and so she asked my mom if she could take me to a shoe store. And back then, there was a place called Kenny's Shoe Store, and Kenny's had 3 pairs of shoes, one that cost $2.99, one that cost $3.99, and another that costs $4.99, right? How
Those
times have
don't
changed.
exist anymore.
Exactly. And all I had ever known is the $2.99 pair. And only the rich kids wore the $4.99 pairs. And this particular day, when we walked into the shoe store, I made a beeline to the $2.99 pairs. It's all I'd ever known. But this particular day, the woman waved me over to the most expensive shoes in the store, and she said, "No, today, Hal, you're going to get the best they have." And it was that kind of kindness, I think, Brandon, that really kept me from becoming angry and bitter towards God.
Wow. And after your father passed away, there was a family that took you in for a lot longer period of time than they initially expected. Is that correct?
They did. The night the police came to tell us that my father was dead, my mom was fighting for her life, a number of neighbors had gathered in the front yard of our house, and the police officer stepped up to the porch to address the crowd. And he just said, "Are there any family members or friends here who are willing to take the 4 children home with them tonight? If not, we'll take the children downtown to the station." And that night, one couple raised their hands and they said, "We'll take them." And I'm sure that they thought it was going to be a 1 or 2 night sleepover, but we ended up living with Bill and Levada Davis in their single-wide trailer for about a year. And they just wrapped their arms around us, showed us that they loved us and that God still had a plan for our lives. And I remember one day in particular, Brandon, that Bill Davis saw that I was hurting, and he came and he just threw his arm over my shoulder and he just said, "Hal, listen to me. Don't allow the tragedy of your youth to become a lifelong excuse, because where you start in life doesn't have to dictate where you end." And I took those words to heart.
Wow, such powerful, profound wisdom.
Yeah.
So, were you at this time already a follower of Jesus, or was that a decision you made later? How did that decision come about in your life?
Yeah, for sure. I had grown up in the church, but I really didn't understand that following Jesus means that you are watching out for others. You're caring for others. I didn't understand that. I think it was in college. I went and got a degree in journalism and a degree in biblical studies. And I think it was in college that I really began to understand that following Jesus means that you have to move from me and just worrying about me to worrying about others. And I like to tell people, I think I moved. I made the journey from a Pharisee to a follower of Jesus when I began really caring about what was happening to other people.
Wow. And so I know that compassion has always been, and kindness are 2 words, and just the year plus time that I've known you and even become more familiar with Convoy of Hope, have really marked you in that organization. Is that something you really learned from the life of Jesus? Was it what you experienced from the family that took you in? Or was it a combination? Like, where do you think that the compassion that marks you was cultivated most?
Yeah, I think, when you lose a loved one, in my case, my father, it raises a lot of questions, and they're fair questions. We don't need to feel guilty for asking these questions. I began asking, is God good? Is God impotent? Or did this tragedy just happen by chance? And throughout my teen years, I was able to answer that question because I saw God and the kindness of Jesus through people. They would not allow me to suffer. When they saw we had needs, they would bring bags of groceries to our door. And, it wasn't the big things, it was the little things, the little acts of kindness. For a young person like me, it just began to add up that it was God that was sending them to our door. It was God who was putting shoes on my feet. It was God that was making sure that, that I was well cared for, and along with my younger siblings and my mother. So I really encourage people, don't underestimate those little acts of kindness because they go a long ways.
Yeah. And it was little acts of kindness that you kind of just began to implement, right? Convoy of Hope now, 25 years later, is this organization that, is in, 13, 14 different countries and is doing things all over the United States, but it didn't start that way, correct?
No, it sure didn't. No, it didn't. When you're poor, you begin a quest not to be poor anymore. And that certainly was my quest as a teenager and a young adult. And it was all about my career. It was about my bank account. That was what I was about. And when I was in my late 20s, I received an opportunity to write a book for some missionaries in Calcutta, India. And when I went there, they said, well, there's someone we want you to interview for our book. And they took me over to meet Mother Teresa, of all people.
just this one person, this is
Unreal. Yeah, it was surreal.
Wow.
I'm not sure what I expected her to be like, but I thought, well, maybe she'd have a halo over her head or something. But she was so down to earth, so kind, and gracious. And in the course of my interviewing her, she just stopped me for a moment. She said, "Young man, let me ask you, what are you doing to help the poor and the suffering?" And, I figured it was not a good idea to lie to Mother Teresa, right? I'm not going to lie
Jesus,
to her.
Mother Teresa. Right?
Exactly. So I told her the truth. I said, I'm really not doing much of anything. And she looked back in a very loving way, and she said, everyone can do something. And Brandon, those words were really haunting to me. I came back to the United States from that trip feeling really guilt-ridden, feeling ashamed that I hadn't done more. I wanted to forget my past, my poverty of my past.
Yeah.
And but I was just praying one day in my office, and I felt like I came up with an idea for a book. And the idea was to go to 8 cities and to live in the streets for 3 days and 3 nights. And so I went to Miami, Atlanta, Chicago, D.C., New York, major cities. And I just walked the streets after midnight, interviewing drug addicts and gang members, prostitutes, runaways, and those who are homeless. And that experience really broke my heart. It did. And on the heels of that, I began to read a chapter of the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. I began to read a chapter every day. And I did that for a year and a half, every day. Get to the end, start right back over. And I began to see how my life was just not measuring up to the life that Jesus modeled. And it was after that we loaded up our first pickup truck 26 years ago now, loaded up with groceries, went into a needy area in Northern California where I was living, and we just started passing out groceries to families that were impoverished. And that was the start of Convoy of Hope.
That's incredible. And so it sounds like, if I heard you correctly, when we talk about compassion, there was almost first an empathy that was cultivated by you actually putting yourself in the lives and the streets, literally, of people that eventually Convoy would help minister to and provide for.
Yeah, it's one of the things I wish I had understood when I was younger, that the condition of my heart was more important than the work of my hands. And, I needed to have a different heart, and God began to change my heart. And when He changed my heart, my priorities began to change as well. And I no longer was looking in the mirror day after day, looking after what, would be good for me. I was waking up every morning asking, what can I do for other people? And, it was a heart transformation that led, I believe, it became the foundation upon which Convoy of Hope was really formed.
It's amazing. And we recently just received just a huge blessing when a huge semi truck came and gave us almost 30 pallets of food and cleaning supplies. We had a huge packing party, and
That's
just
beautiful.
recently had our distribution to people here in this community. And I know that just in this COVID crisis, that Convoy of Hope has really focused a lot of their energy towards meeting needs here domestically. I know that there's international needs that have been what Convoy also reaches out to, but currently, meeting needs here in the United States, and for us right here in Southern California. So first off, thank you. But I thought it'd be so exciting for just the people to hear a little bit what Convoy is doing and what that shipment represents of what's going on all over the United States in partnership with local churches.
Well, thank you, Brandon, and thank you, Rice City, for just being a part of what I'm calling a united act of compassion. And let me just tell you what's happened thus far. When there's a disaster of this magnitude, you have a choice. You can circle the wagons and you can go into protective mode, or you can begin looking out and for opportunities to meet the needs of people. Rise City, you're a great example. You looked out and you saw opportunity to help people. And so Convoy of Hope did the same thing. We said, okay, after COVID-19 became a very serious matter and things were closing down and people were losing their jobs and children were no longer having access to their school lunch programs, we said, what can we do? And we said, well, let's start with 10 million meals. Let's do 10 million meals. And we let word out across the country to different churches such as yours that, hey, we're going to do this. And it really thrills me to tell you that we've had over 1,000 churches that responded, that have done outreaches like yours. And we've been able to distribute more than 25 million meals in just a matter of weeks. And it's because churches have turned their parking lots and their facilities into distribution centers. And the lines of cars are so significant that we're just going to keep going, Brandon. I was asked the other day, well, how long is this going to go on? What do you think it's going to be? And I said, I think it could be 50 million meals before we're done. 50 million, wow. I think it could be.
Wow. And so you stretch back 26 years, you have this heart change, you put yourself in the life of other people and really understand where they're coming from. You have an encounter with Mother Teresa, which that one's probably hard to have duplicated for a lot of us, but you still just do something, right? The next kind thing. I remember reading that in the book that you wrote, The Disruptive Compassion. Just do the next kind thing. You start collecting groceries, and then 26 years later, just continuing to step in faith, potentially 50 million meals. Like, there's a lot of people in our church that have big dreams, and they want to make an impact. And we've seen so many people even rise up through the COVID-19 crisis and say, hey, we want to make a difference and help people. But sometimes people with big dreams just want to jump to the big right away.
Right, that's true.
Any lessons you've learned in 26 years that you would encourage the people who have just great hearts that want to make change that they could start doing right now to make a difference?
Well, as I said before, it does begin with a heart change. And, I do encourage people to read the Gospels, read about the life of Jesus day after day, because that will get in your spirit and that will become the model that you're trying to emulate. So it starts there. But as you said, just doing the next kind thing is really an important step, because Jesus wants to help people who are hurting and are lonely more than we do. He's just looking for people who will raise their hand and say, I'll try. And I certainly did that. That first time that I loaded up that pickup truck with $300 worth of groceries in Northern California, honestly, it wasn't to start an organization. That wasn't the intent. The intent was to do something, to respond to an impulse, to do something kind for someone. And I do believe that vision tends to be incremental. We do the little thing, and we're obedient to the little thing, and then God shows us the next step, and then the next step, and the next step. Vision tends to be incremental. Our job is not to think about the 20th step. Our job is to think about the next step. And when we're doing that, Jesus will show us many, many opportunities. They're all around us, of people who are hurting and in need.
So in 26 years, how often, even though you're moving from a heart of kindness and compassion, have you found yourself discouraged? Or are there times where the kindness and compassion starts to wane? Because I know that some people that really start putting themselves out there also at times start getting discouraged, or they start losing that heart, and whether it's because they feel like people have taken advantage of it, there's not been gratitude or whatever. But how have you worked through that and continue to cultivate this type of a heart? Because I guess I'm sure you have been discouraged. Is that
sure?
Absolutely. Fair assessment? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that one of the challenges is not to become discouraged by the enormity of the task. And a lot of times we look at world poverty, for example, or world hunger. We have to remind ourselves that nowhere in the Bible, Jesus never said, your job is to solve world hunger. No, he said, feed the person in front of you. And I think we need to look at it in terms of bite sizes. Where I become discouraged is when I begin to look at the whole. I begin to be overwhelmed by, the tension in America today, and I become overwhelmed by the hunger in the world today. All he's asked me to do is what I can do. And I'm committed to doing that. And that keeps me from getting discouraged. But there are days that I'm discouraged, because there are days that I think it's about me and what I do. No, it's about what Jesus does through me. That's what really counts. And sometimes there are days that I forget that.
Yeah. So right now, as we're filming this, I mean, there's the COVID-19 crisis, and there's also there's a racial conversation / argument that's going on as well. And this same component or value of compassion seems to be necessary in this time. And it's really hard, because you have people that are struggling economically, you have people that have been isolated from others, and now there are these things that are happening that are just causing people to be outraged. If you're comfortable, I'd love just to, from your vantage point and just have a heart of compassion, what are some things that you're seeing or that you would add to the conversation as people are kind of at an emotional and wit's end right now, and we're seeing it really start to kind of boil over? Yeah,
I think the tendency is to try to jump to easy answers and maybe even band-aided solutions. What we're seeing right now, I think, reflects the fact that a lot of people have been hurting, and they feel like they haven't had a voice, and now they're speaking out. And I think now is a time for all of us to listen and to try and gain understanding, rather than to offer simple solutions and simple answers that may tend to minimize the reality of the problems that we're facing as a nation. And I don't think this is a moment that should be taken lightly. It's not one that we should minimize in any way. I believe Jesus is at work in this.
Yeah.
And as followers of Jesus Christ, we should have the loudest voices when it comes to racism. We should have the loudest voices. We shouldn't be afraid to step up and to speak out against racism. But I just would caution all of us to maybe not take sides and not allow this to become a political issue. This is a personal issue. And I do believe that the Lord wants to do a deep work in all of us. If there are prejudices in our hearts, God, use this time to rid our hearts of those kind of emotions and feelings. But Brandon, I can say this to you as a friend. I don't want us in America to miss this moment. It's a moment for healing. There's a wound that's been there for a long time, and I believe the Lord wants to do something significant through the church and through followers of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, well said. I just tend to believe so much these elements of kindness and compassion, no matter what side or no matter what party or no matter, that if we can all have that as the baseline, that compassion we see evidence in Jesus, it really help bring a lot of healing to hurt on so many levels. And so I think just even simple acts of doing food distributions, of trying to rally churches together to be mobilized in the community for the greater good, and things that Convoy is encouraging, and I know we at Rise City are trying. It's a part of what we're just wanting to do. That's our addition to the conversation of more like, can we keep serving and keep loving all people? And
Amen.
We are
So
going to need
true.
to keep growing. And so.
Brandon, I would make this observation that I believe that right now in America there is an epidemic of loneliness, a lot of lonely people, and they don't think that anyone cares about what happens to them. And what a great opportunity it is for followers of Jesus Christ just to befriend lonely people. And it can begin with simple acts of kindness, but it can also be just giving them a few moments of your time. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for someone that will listen to them, someone who will just be their friend. And I think if we collectively did more of that, just befriending lonely people, it'd be a different place.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think we're just, all of us are yearning to come out of our quarantine and give some hugs. And
That's right, for sure.
Yeah, so, well, as we're recording this, once this gets watched, it's going to be Father's Day weekend. So I did want to spend just a little bit of time just talking about dads. I know you're a father of 3, correct?
Four daughters.
Four daughters. Sorry, didn't mean to leave one out. Sorry, four daughters. Yeah, so lots of weddings you have to pay for.
Exactly. I've had 2 in the last 6 months. So yes, exactly.
Oh, wow.
We put a moratorium on the other 2. The youngest, they can't get married for 5 years.
That's funny. The importance of being a dad. Like
Yeah.
as you have over the years been leading this organization, at the same time, you've had young daughters growing up and having to, being a father to them. Like, what did you see more valuable? How did you prioritize? Like, can you, just speak to your time as a father when they're growing up and even
Sure.
now as they're getting older?
Yeah, well, I only had my father 12 years, and but those 12 years were so instrumental. There are so many things I remember as a kid about my father before I lost him, and I think that should tell all of us that regardless of how old our kids are, that our words and our personalities, our values, priorities, those are invaluable for children. And I would frame it this way, that I see my role as a dad is to provide loving accountability, but also to be a cheerleader. My kids would tell you, their dad is their biggest cheerleader. I am. I just cheer them on. I cheer them when they fail. I cheer them when they succeed. I'm just with them, and that's something that I missed in my teens. I didn't have that person in my life, and maybe it's part of it, so I want to make up for it with my children. But there are several things that maybe if I could just jump into that I really think are important for us as dads.
I'd love to hear that.
I'm
being selfish right now. I'm taking it for myself. If everyone wants to listen in, that's fine. I need this. So yes, please.
Great. Well, when you are busy, it's easy to sacrifice family time. But family time needs to be sacred. It's sacred. And I remember, for example, at the beginning of every year, our family takes a look at our calendar and we mark off vacation time. We mark off just family time. And my kids know that there's nothing that will interfere with that. Nothing. They are the highest priority of my life. And so, what we did one time, we were on family vacation, and I received an invitation from the president to meet with him in the Oval Office. And there were 6 of us who were going to meet with the president and advise him on something. I can't remember what the topic was. Brandon, I declined. Why? Because quite honestly, my children are more important than a visit to the Oval Office.
That's incredible.
And I think we have to see them in that light with that kind of priority. And for me, that's just, and my children, it's been life-changing. They know how much they mean to me.
That's a significant no
It's
to be
true.
said, but to say yes ultimately to your daughters and your wife. Anything as your daughters now are at the age of getting married and starting to get older, like that you look back on along with prioritizing and making sure like that they knew that you were the biggest fan and cheerleader. Any other things that you would say I would encourage the dads out there right now? Like I've got 4 kids, 9 and under, so it still feels pretty chaotic and don't see a lot of at times fruit from your labor. Still believing that's going to come.
But for sure.
Just more things you pass on to dads.
Yeah, one thing I started over a decade ago, and I've been religious in it, is I write something for my children every night, and they're in volumes. I don't use a computer. I actually write them out, and the reason is that I know that those volumes are going to live on long before that I'm on this planet, and hopefully my children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren will be able to read those volumes and be able to really understand what our family is all about and what we value. And, I talk very openly about mistakes that I make, but also about victories. And, they'll someday have the opportunity to read the depth of my love for them and my love for God. And I'm not hesitant to talk about the questions that I'm asking God right now. But, I want them to know that following Jesus is real. It's just real. It's not phony. It's not a facade. It has ups and downs. But anyway, that's just something I've done that I think will someday bear a lot of fruit.
That's awesome. For the two daughters that are married, what were you like as a father in giving permission or giving the guy a hard time? Like, were you a fierce protector, or how'd that go down?
Well, I actually wrote out one time 7 rules for dating, and I can't even remember what they are right now, but I do remember one that was very instrumental for one of my daughters. I wrote that don't date anyone who isn't kind to waiters. And the reason being is if they're not kind to a waiter, someday they're not going to be kind to you. And so, you want to marry someone and date someone who knows how to be kind. And my daughter was actually dating someone who did something in a restaurant that she really thought was offensive and rude, and she ended up breaking up with him that night. So anyway, yeah, I think simple things like that have really guided them, and both of them found just incredible guys, and we just feel very, very, very fortunate.
That's awesome. I think I shared with you when I was kind of corresponding for our talk that I had a gentleman in our church that just was talking about, he said, with all this talk that's going on right now of advantage and privilege, like that, he's like, the one thing I just know, he's like, without getting into all the conversations, I just know that one of the greatest privileges that people can have is to have a father that's present and a good father. And he's like, that to me is the greatest privilege, and I want to make sure that's shared with all and to encourage dads. Because we currently live in a time too where I feel like that sometimes dads, even in media and things like that, are portrayed as kind of like just kind of dumb, just kind of just along for the ride. But just the importance of a father in the security and the formation of a child's identity. I don't know, just anything you'd say just to encourage the dads out there on Father's Day, because Father's Day sometimes is even looked at like, well, it's second to Mother's Day, but it should be. I get that. But anything of just encouragement to the dads out there?
Well, one that's a little raw is just last night. My 21-year-old college student, she was kind of hurting, and some things had happened with some friends, and she was really in pain. And and I noticed, and so I said, "Hey, let's just hop in the car. Let's go for a drive." And what I thought was going to be like maybe a 15-minute drive ended up being 2 hours, but great conversation. So I guess one tip is, if you need to talk to your child, tell them to jump in the car with you, because they're not going to jump out and you're driving. So, you could really get to the heart of the matter. And so we just had an amazing conversation. And that's something I'm going to continue to do.
Yeah. Well, Hal, I really just so appreciate you. And my whole
you too.
Hope and goal in this conversation was really just for people to get a chance to hear your heart. You've become a dear friend and mentor to me, and we're just so grateful here at Rise City to be able to have the partnership with Convoy of Hope, and to not just in this instance with the distribution, but in future endeavors as well. And I thought it'd be great for our people to be able to hear from you and just to see your heart. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk today. And I value your friendship. I just can't say that loudly enough, Brandon. I just feel like God saw fit to make sure our lives intersected. And, I hope we have many, many more conversations. I do want to say to your people, though, today, your church, that, when you find a pastor with Brandon's sincerity, and he's so genuine, and he loves people, you found a good one. And so anyway, congratulations to Rice City for having someone like Brandon.
All right. I'll send you some money later for that one. Thanks.
Thank you. It's true. It's true. Right. No doubt.
Well,
you know me. I tell the truth, and I'm telling the truth.
That is so true.
You're a very special guy. Thank you.
Too. Well, thank you, Hal. maybe we just close out our conversation. Would you be willing just to pray just for just a current situation, whatever comes to your heart, but also just for the dads out there on this Father's Day, and then we'll have that be the end of our call.
Absolutely. Thank you. Lord, thank you so much for just how you constantly remind us that you're with us. We aren't alone. You're with us every step of the way. And the things that happen in our lives, sometimes they're not necessarily positive, but Lord, you turn them positive. You take tragedies like what happened in my life and you make something good out of it. And Lord, I just ask that you would bring hope to America. Right now, there are a lot of people that are losing hope, but may we as followers of Jesus, may we bring hope to desperate situations and to lonely people. We also lift up all the fathers that are watching this today. Lord, thank you for them. Thank you for the important role, the critical role that they play in the formation of their children. May their children do amazing things for you, God. Why? Because they had a father who cared, who invested in them. So thank you, Lord, for Rise City. Thank you for how you're using this church to make a difference in the lives of so many families. And be with Pastor Brandon and his family as well. We thank you for it. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thanks, Hal.
Thank you. Great being with you.
Well, Rise City, hope you have an incredible day. For the dads out there, whether you're golfing or you're just playing video games, sleeping, or you're doing whatever, have an awesome time doing that. And just want to encourage you to keep joining with us in the coming weeks for Rise City Live, 9 and 11, but also available on demand Saturday night by 5 p.m. And as we talked about earlier in the service, we are tentatively looking to be back having live services right here on site July 12th. More information to come, but that is so exciting for us to know that that is coming soon. And so as we keep moving forward in that manner, I want to just also encourage us to keep moving forward, becoming a people who wake up, rise, and shine. That we would wake up to Jesus, rise to life in Him, and shine to others for Him. God bless.